being an artist's wife is like being married to a rock star. You know what I mean? It's a lot of, like you said, you know, there was a time where I would get really resentful of people because it's like, I'm more than just Hip's wife. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a person with feelings too.
Whatever. I'm just kidding.
On today's episode, we get to sit down and spend some time with a very special guest, Mrs. Meghan Shelpman. Actually, it's Hip's wife. Don't know how he got so lucky. We spent some time talking about a working relationship with a tattoo artist that's super driven. We spent some time talking about addiction and the journey of following somebody's dream. Very happy to have you here with us tonight. Here we go.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Tattoo Guardians podcast. And tonight is a very special episode because we have my wife accompanying us tonight, and I am here with my other two co-hosts, or hosts, Matt Clemmer.
That's right.
And Joshua Carlton.
Hey, Josh, how are you?
Hello. I'm good. How are you guys?
Good.
I was why I hesitated because I was thinking of co-defendants. That's what I was going to say.
Gotcha.
I wanted to be fancy.
Okay.
Yeah, because Josh called us the usual suspects one time. And
that's
I'm like,
right.
Oh, I need to one up that.
That's right.
Way to fuck it up.
Yeah.
Way to fuck it
I
up.
know.
Yeah.
On all the episodes, the one with your wife on it, and you just start out trash.
So,
But I'm super stoked you're here, Meghan.
Well, thank you. That's her name. Is your name Megan?
It is.
Man, happy day. You know, my 2-year-old daughter calls her Big Meat. That's her nickname right here. Where meat go?
Yeah.
Love it.
When we found that out on the last podcast when Nicole was on, we thought that was the best thing ever. I love that.
Totally.
Big meat.
Big Meat and funny.
I wish that was my tattoo name.
You know.
I'd be way more booked.
Big.
Tattoos by Big Meat.
That's right. And Funny Hop.
Funny hop.
This is
Right.
Funny Hop. I love it.
Funny hop. Ha hop.
Megan, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. I actually have the honor of already knowing you a little because our lives have been so intertwined for years. So it's real special that you're here. I may be biased because I fucking love you so much because of who you are and everything you've done for us and do for us. So I'm going to do my best to pretend to not know you much to interview you tonight for all of our beautiful listeners. Or Hip can just interview you since he really acts like he don't know you either on display.
I know the questions to ask.
Yeah. You got some questions?
No, I was going to let you guys tear her up. And
Awesome.
I was going to stay here and protect her. Like,
What did it take to get you on the show? Were you instantly down, or did it take a little bit of talking into?
I was instantly down.
Were you?
Yeah, because, you know, I try to support him as much as I can.
Well, you do. Get up on that mic, girl.
And, you know, I think it's cool that you guys are doing this. So when he asked me, I was all for it.
Yeah.
And it helped that Nicole went first.
Yeah.
That helped. I told her, I actually messaged her today and was like, you know, thank you for setting the tone for me and Katie. And,
Yeah.
you know, just being you, you know, she's just a really great person. And I mean, I couldn't tell that she was nervous at all if she was. So,
Right.
and she messaged.
Well, it's awfully nice of you.
Yeah, she did do great. And so, yeah, she kind of set the pace or set the path.
Yeah.
So that you felt a little more comfortable coming in. Big shoes to fill, though. Damn.
Yeah, it is.
Just like- But you're right. I think it's funny that you just said, I'd try to support him. That's like real humble of you because you really fucking do.
She
and
does.
always have, you know? She's like a huge supporter. So big that not just him, but of all of us, you know, which is really special to see. I mean, it shows. I mean, you guys have seen her. She's running the booth. She's up in the mix. She's networking, celebrating, and genuinely happy for anyone that wins an award. But I know it's cool with you bringing some hardware home that your husband just won,
Right.
you know. But girl, since I've known you, you've always been up in the mix, you know. So, yeah, trying to support what you've been doing real good at it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
you know, we talked a little bit about that last week. How like she's just a good person to have in your team and in the booth, and that there's been multiple times where I've been tattooing a client and I look up and Megan and my client are just like super deep conversation and talking about life and everything, and then you know some time will pass, a year or whatever, and I noticed she posts, you know, happy birthday to so and so, and I'm like, you know, how do you, and she was like, it was at the convention, like we became friends, now we're like official on Facebook, and we talk every couple weeks, and it's just she's a people person, and
you're right, because she's got a good memory too. When you meet someone and learn something about them, you actually retain it and will come and tell us, I've been talking to so and so and this is their life, right? And which was awesome.
I appreciate that, and we actually got like this little unspoken thing that we do, because I am unfortunately I'm horrible with names, horrible, unless it's something weird like Jebediah or Cletus or Meat, but I never can remember people's names, and you know, a few years ago we would show up and Megan would be with me, and she was getting pissed at me because I wouldn't introduce her to people. And it wasn't because I was just forgetting her, it was because I was forgetting the person that we were talking to's name.
Right.
So I would just not say anything. And then, you know, I wasn't aware of it, but when she brought it up that like, why don't you ever introduce me to anyone? And I'm like, holy shit, thank God that you brought that up, because this is what I need you to do. Whenever I don't do that, go ahead and introduce yourself so I can find out whose name or, you know, who we're talking to, because I won't remember.
Well, and me and my wife have almost the exact same scenario, but instead of there being an awkward pause, since you're the bridge in the relationship, you're supposed to know so and so, and that's why you, and I'm like you, whenever I'm supposed to know so and so and I totally know them, that's when I lose their, it's like, what's your name? I know I'm supposed to know, you know, so I never say what's your name. So what I'll do is I'll on purpose introduce my wife by saying, hey, what up, hey, this is my wife Katie, and she knows when I do that when she goes forward, like, yeah, what's your name? When they're like, Jeff, I'm like, yeah, Jeff, this is Jeff. You know what I'm saying? Like, same deal,
right?
For sure.
I could see that backfiring though, where they still just kind of pause and they're like waiting for you to say it. You know?
I know it.
Right? They don't say their name. Katie goes to shake their hand, and they're just like, oh, hello.
But I will say I love those awkward moments where my wife is like crawling in her skin. She'll do everything to prevent those, afraid of them, even hypothetical, and I love them.
I remember my grandmother told me, like, if you want to remember somebody's name, ask them how they spell it. And I was actually like writing somebody's appointment down, and they were watching me write it down. And I had tattooed them a few times, but I could not remember their name, so I recalled my grandmother's idea, and I was like, oh, how do you spell your name again? And he goes, B-O-B. I was like, fuck. And I was like, so I said, oh, just making sure there's not two O's in it. Fucking idiot.
Only
Boo.
one B or two? Okay.
That was the last time I tattooed that
guy. Well, I got to do that anyway because I'm not good at spelling. So yeah. And it's always weird, you know. How do you spell your name? It's Jeff. I know, but like with a G or a J, you know.
That's right.
Is it with a PH?
That's right. That's right.
How long have you guys been together? Not you and Matt.
Right. That's right.
He's asking you.
Oh, you looking at him like he doesn't
It's
remember.
going on 11 years.
11 years.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Man,
that's a long time to pick up after somebody.
It is, and you know what? I still appreciate doing it to this day. You know, there's not a day that goes by where I'm not looking forward to waking up and getting the girls ready for school. Once she finally decides to wake up for her day, which is awesome. You know, my lovely wife needs her beauty sleep, and she gets up and goes to watch the morning news. I'll make the bed and get a warm pot of coffee started.
A nice breakfast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You all right.
So 11 years. So do you want to talk about the story of how you guys met?
Sure. So actually, we've known each other since we were kids.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Our grandparents went to church together. They played music together. They used to go on dates or have like get-togethers at their house and play cards together. And I actually remember sitting in church with my grandparents next to his.
Wow.
And then, you know, speed ahead. I think I was 12 and he was 13, and he played football with my cousin. And he told my cousin that he wanted me to be his girlfriend. And I was like, ew, no. I wasn't into boys yet. And so, you know, he ended up getting with someone and I ended up getting with someone. And we just, you know, have always been really good friends. And, you know, we ended up getting together at the end of 2010.
Okay.
And it probably wasn't the greatest start to a relationship.
Why?
Because we were both getting high. And so...
And clarify, when you say getting high, what do you mean?
we were doing heroin together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
It started out that I thought that I could save him, right? Because, you know, prior to that, you know, Hip was in and out of jail and prison, and I would write him when he was in prison, and I always told him, like, you know, you're so talented, and I've just always have seen the talent in him and the good in him. I always told him that, like, you just have so much good in you, and so my intentions were, when we got together, that I was going to save him from using heroin. And little did I know that I was broken myself and just had been using different things to take the focus off myself. And then I ended up using with him. Yeah.
Okay. And how long did this go on? I know you guys have both been clean for a while.
I mean, it went on for a while. I mean, long enough that we, you know,
for like 2012.
the kids got taken. We lost the house. You know, we were at the bitter ends of, like, you know, losing the apartment, trying to fit all of our stuff in this tiny little storage, and you know, we were gonna live on the bike path, and it was November in a tent.
That's romantic.
And actually, we had talked about the only way that we were going to be able to stay afloat was we were just going to start robbing people. And Hip had a, you know, we had been dodging, like, children's services, and this detective kept wanting to talk to us. And, of course, we both were running on warrants for probation. And we were co-defendants, so we weren't even supposed to be with each other. Which is funny because he started out saying my co-defendants. So we weren't even supposed to be around each other.
What were we co-defendants for?
For our Walmart theft.
Oh, Wally World. Shout out to Walmart.
And so, you know, I've shared this with Hip that, like, towards the end of us losing the apartment, I had been praying. You know, and I remember saying these exact words, like, God, you can't let him die, but you've got to separate us, or we're going to die. One of us is going to die, or both of us is going to die. And I was just tired, you know?
Yeah.
And that day he got arrested.
Really?
Yeah. And so
Okay.
I remember being completely devastated because he was the hustler, you know? And I stayed out for probably a month or two after he went to jail. And I remember just waking up one day like, I do not want to do this anymore. I am so done. And it's weird how just by saying those words and not even out loud, that things started to get better. Like, you know, I was able to go move in with my sister and be back with my kids, and I got into an outpatient treatment I first had to go turn myself into jail because I was running on that warrant. But I got into an outpatient treatment, and they're the ones that started to suggest the 12-step program. But also I knew that I had to put myself first for once, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like the only way that this was going to work if I literally put myself first. So by doing that, I had to tell myself like there was no way that we could ever be together again. Even though I knew that he was the love of my life and that I did not feel or think that I could love anyone like I did him, I had to tell myself like this is it. But in the process, getting real fearful that like I knew that he was getting ready to get out of jail. And I was afraid that if I even seen him that I would want to get high. And so speed ahead, I'm at a meeting one night and he walks in and I was like super like scared. You know what I mean? Like, right. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to focus on the meeting. And I remember afterwards, I just ran out the door and got into my brother's car that I was using. And I remember seeing him in the rear view. And then he says I called him, but he called me.
She called me.
I had the same phone. He didn't have a phone, so there's no way that I could have known how to call him. But I basically just told him that this is what I'm doing, and basically if you're not on that, then I can't even fuck with you, which is what he said to me too. And so we just started seeing each other at meetings and stuff, and then we hid it from our family for 6 months that we were back together, and a lot of people disagreed with it, you know, especially like the new people that we started building a foundation with, who we call our predecessors. We're like, it's dangerous, you know what I mean? One of you's going to get high or both of you's going to get high.
Yeah, like old triggers.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they suggest in the program that you stick with someone who has clean time versus two people with, you know, so close amount of clean time. One gets an idea, the chances of the other one following with that idea is pretty likely. So, you know, I think we made a plan in the beginning that like, you know, if you get high and you don't want to do anything about it, then I can't, you know, you become old people, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it was really like scary, I think, for both of us. And we both had a lot of resentments towards each other that we had to work through and like try to separate that to where it was like not telling him that I resented him, you know what I mean? Working more with my sponsor and through step work to heal from that, and then being able to make our amends to each other. You know, so we both have 8 years clean, and when we got married, I remember putting in my vows that I got to fall in love with him twice. You know, I fell in love with the person, you know, the sick person, and then I got to fall in love with the version of him that God intended him to be.
Right.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. So with that being said, I mean, you know, I don't have the history with drugs myself. I've been around it a lot my whole life. I've been around people who've been addicted. It's got to be fascinating for how far you guys have come. I mean, I'm sure not just hip. There's always a strong woman behind a good man too. So like, you know, fast forwarding to 8 years later and owning a home and having this successful business and everything, how does that feel to you guys, you know?
Well, for me,
did it just seem like did you think you would ever materialize the type of life you have?
No. And actually, I'm glad that you asked that, because I was able to help somebody the other day, and you know, there's multiple times where I'll just be driving and I'll cry, and not because I'm sad, because I'm so grateful that I have the life that I have today, and I know that like I'm blessed to be here, you know.
Absolutely.
And there's so many people that aren't, you know, and so I was able to help somebody with something, and you know, that's one of the greatest things I think that I've received from recovery, is that I'm able to be of service to somebody with no I don't want anything back for it. it's just like that gift of being able to give. You know, it's
Right.
huge. So like sometimes I look at my life and I'm like, I'm just so blown away that this is my life today.
Right.
You know, and especially when I look at my children, you know, I am giving my children something that I never had. You know, I definitely was loved by my parents, but I was never given structure. I was never taught, you know, when I was listening to Nicole, when I was listening to her talk, she kept saying like, well, this is out of the norm. And it's like, that's how I was raised, was like, women don't work. They stay at home and they raise kids. And then when the kids are gone, it's like, what do you have? You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm teaching my girls to be independent, strong women, that you can do anything at any given time. It doesn't matter. You know, I'm teaching them to be women that don't need a man, that, you know what I mean? Like, there's just, I'm just breaking so many cycles, you know what I mean? So it's just like,
good for you.
Those are the things that I'm grateful for today. And, you know, with HIP, it's like, my girls get to see a man that works hard. You know, he's a hard worker. You know, he's loyal. He never talks down to me. You know what I mean? And so it's like I said, it's just like I look at him or I look at our life sometimes and I'm like, I just can't believe that this is our life today. Like, so much gratitude.
Wow. And for our listeners and also myself, who doesn't have experience with the power of addiction, even with all of that, it's a lifetime thing, correct? You're always going to be fighting this battle, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Same with you, Hip. It's not like it's just gone, right? Like you could easily, you could be tempted, obviously, back.
Yeah. And, you know, it's just, it can manifest in any number of areas, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And she kind of like curbed what she was saying, but this is what she did. So we got like a homie who's like been through a fucking Saw movie basically in the rooms, and he was talking about like not being able to hear, finding out his other ear, he's only hearing at 60% capacity or 40% capacity, I can't remember which one, but Megan went behind his back on social media and like made a post because he needed hearing aids, but they're real expensive. And like, this dude just beat cancer, and
Hepatitis.
is on a list to possibly need a liver transfer. And so she went behind his back on social media, gathered up the money for the new hearing aids, and
Wow.
just so happens one of her good friends also was like is deaf and uses hearing aids, and they've got like a $6,000 pair, and they're like, well, I just upgraded to like these Bluetooth ones so he can have these. So boom, she brings him a pair of, you know, real expensive hearing aids. Yeah, I'm like, I don't know, I had a brain fart there for a minute. Hearing aids, and then gave him like $1,300 or $1,900 in cash just because. And you know, it's funny because like I know we talked about this last week with Nicole, but like, and I'm glad because this is like a good runway into it, about like her being in my shadow and knowing and seeing that like it does bother her, and especially before she had her own business and stuff, like I could see it would get under her skin. But so she did the whole thing, and just because like we're a couple, a power couple or whatever, people look up to us, that person messaged me and was like, dude, thank you so much for what you and Megan have done. You know, I love you, appreciate you and everything. And I instantly wrote back like, dude, that was all Megatron. That's for the viewers, I call her Megatron or Ronald Megan, you know, just fun. Mister. But yeah, I told him, I'm like, dude, that was all her. And then he ended up sending her a card, but he also sent me a card too. And I'm, you know, I just accepted it because, you know, I don't rob people from the gift of giving. But like, that's a prime example of what I talked about last weekend of like, you know, like there's times where I've done things and she's never got a thanks for it just because she's my wife. But it seems like anytime she does something, I automatically get thanked for it because of,
for sure.
I don't know, a bigger presence or, whatever reason it is, but I know it probably has been like a struggle from the beginning. Because I remember, she'd go out someplace and I couldn't make it because I was at work tattooing, and everybody'd be like, "Oh, hey, what's up, Megan? Where's Hip at? Where's Hip at? Where's Hip at?" And she's like, "I don't fucking know." So I know that like it had to have been annoying.
Right. Yeah. So we talk so much about giving on this podcast, so clearly it's not falling too far. Megan sounds like just as big of a giver as you, so that's amazing. So
Man,
I just wanted to personally thank you, Megan, for that. That's very close to my heart, and I love people that give, so thank you so much for all you've done and all you do.
Thank you.
And I went into Journal today, and yet again I got a fresh bouquet of flowers that just magically appeared there. I don't know why or what I've done or what she's wanting to see me do. It could be a number of things, with my cynical thinking, but like for the last month to 2 months, she's bought me flowers for my office when I go in there. And usually what it is like I'll come home at like midnight and she'll be like, our master bedroom's in the basement. So I'll walk downstairs and she'll be like, "Did you go in your office?" And I was like, "No." And she's like, "Go up in your office." And I'll go up there and there's like a thank you note with a bouquet of flowers, and I almost feel I don't know, it's my shit, but I feel like less than, because like the whole stereotypical, I'm supposed to be the one getting you flowers, you're the one deserving of flowers, not me.
Right.
But she makes me feel special and all gushy inside.
Well,
Even
and
though
why
I'm not
that
the
was
best at showing
happening?
it.
Why that was happening? When she sent you back up, I was climbing out your window.
Yeah.
Past 2 months, Megan and I have been sleeping together. That's where all the flowers have come from.
Well, I know that's a lie because our basement windows aren't that big.
Okay, you're right.
But you keep up on that diet and you'll be able to do that. And why I happened to come home late at midnight? Because I was up here.
Yeah.
We're all friends here.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. That's
So was it interesting too, Megan, as well, for like you to kind of watch, because I'm assuming that you were with Hip early on in his career enough that he wasn't, the artist that he is today. So you've kind of been on that journey with him. And you have one of my favorite, if not my favorite, tattoo from Hip, the bird on your leg. So what was that like to kind of watch him grow into that artist,
Amazing. It was an amazing to watch him. I think in the beginning he really doubted himself.
Sure.
And like Matt was talking about triggers earlier, I think he had convinced himself that if he continued to do tattooing, that he would continue to use. And,
sure.
He's shared about this where he got this call. And see, this is just another example for me. To me, it's a God thing. You keep doing the next right thing happens. We were in a meeting and he got a phone call and he went outside and took it. It was a cousin that he doesn't normally talk to. And the cousin was like, "Hey, I have this friend who's running this tattoo shop with her boyfriend. They're looking for artists," and gave him the information or whatever. He got off the phone and he's like really nervous. And he was talking to me and a friend of his. And he was like, "I just don't know if I can do it." And I'm like, "Well, just call and see. What's the harm in calling and seeing?"
Right.
And so he did. And the guy was like, "If you use drugs or drink or anything, I'll hit you in the head with the hammer." And instantly he was like, "Cool." And so the friend that was there with us, Josh, he did a portrait of a dog on him. And then the guy hired him. And I knew then, like I said, it's going to go back to what I've always seen in Hip since we were kids. I know that I know his talent. And so I
Right.
knew that he was going to strive in this. And so I was super supportive about it. I did struggle in the beginning because he was gone for long periods of time, and we
Yeah.
didn't get to see each other very much, but he balanced it. He really did. He balanced it. And it goes back to Nicole, how she was saying that you told her that she wouldn't be number one. He didn't say that to me, but I pretty much felt that way.
Sure.
And
yeah.
I was like, okay, well, it's not going to be like this forever,
Right.
And so I just tried really hard to like be supportive and not really push my feelings on him. And here's something I was thinking about the other day that I've really had to learn to do is I know that him going in and doing a tattoo, that it's basically like a heart surgeon going in and doing, open heart surgery. So it's like I try my best to like not bring anything to him or anything like that before he goes in and does a tattoo.
Yeah,
Now,
super smart.
that
yeah.
was a learning lesson. It took me a while to
Yeah.
get there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I've gotten better in that, I think. But, I just have always known that he was gonna be big, and
That's awesome.
I don't feel like I'm in his shadow today. I actually I was driving the other day and I started crying because I was thinking about, I like had this vision of us as old people with great grandkids and like our kids being out at the grocery store with their kids and someone coming up to them and being like, did Hip do that tattoo? Or I have Hip's art on me, you know what I mean? And it's like,
Right.
all of you, you know what I mean? Like you're going to live on even long after you're gone. You know what I mean? And that's
Right,
amazing.
exactly.
That's amazing.
That's pretty. That's yeah. I never really looked at it that way. That's actually really interesting. Yeah, I think you really show the power of like when somebody's supportive of their spouse. What that can bring. You know what I mean? Because I'm super lucky with Nicole, obviously, and I've been in relationships where people, they just didn't really get it. They weren't necessarily trying to not be supportive, but they just didn't understand. We're very goal-driven artists, and it can be hard to kind of be in the background and like, as all this work goes on, these long nights, or like even coming home and like, yeah, I'm home, but I'm still drawing, I'm still talking about tattoos, I'm still thinking about tomorrow's tattoo. So yeah, I can't imagine that being easy for sure.
Yeah. And it took me a long time, like Nicole was saying, to like find what it was that I needed to be doing for me. You know what I mean?
Right.
And thank God for other artists' wives, like Nicole and Katie and Erin. Those are three that I can think of right now that I really look up to. I love. They're very genuine and have huge hearts and have just given me a lot of experience and strength and hope to help me in my relationship. You know what I mean? Because being an artist's wife is like being married to a rock star. You know what I mean? It's a lot of, like you said, there was a time where I would get really resentful of people because it's like, I'm more than just Hip's wife. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I'm a person with feelings too.
Whatever. I'm just kidding.
But that just, today it's like, yeah, I'm Hip's wife.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah,
Right.
I know Matt Klimmer. Yeah, I know Joshua Carlton.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've met Nico Hurtado.
Right.
Yeah.
What's Hip charge? You think you could get me in?
Yeah. Or they'll start just sending me pictures and I'm like, stop
Yeah.
with the pictures. I'm not an artist. I just send them his
Yeah.
website,
Yeah, Nikki gets that all the time. They're always like, they kind of like try to go through her to get to me and everything. And it's always interesting. I'm sure that happens to you as well, Matt.
Yeah, it has a couple times.
Yeah.
Boy, that shit pissed me off, though. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I get it. I get it, girl. You've always been so down from day one. I mean, since we've met. Where were you at in your career when us three met? Because I know she took us to when you auditioned, you got hired, and that was...
You saying where was I at?
Yeah, or how many years in the game before you know that? Because it was still in the beginning, right?
Oh yeah, dude. When I first met you,
it was at that shop that you auditioned at.
I may have been working there like 60, 90 days, if that.
Yeah.
And then that pause of or what you came in to offer for us, and we went and seen it, and then I sent you a message and wonked crazy. It was, and I don't know, three more years. So I mean,
that's right.
I moved shops, dude. I probably moved 2 shops a year, just because I rode the coattails of the saying that like tattooers are nomadic, and I'm like, well, I'm supposed to be moving shops. And reality is like, yeah, I hung on to that, but what it was like I was just outgrowing the people I was around. And it from that shop I moved to another one, and at that shop I think because there's something about this job that people in close proximity to you just like start doing things. Like you'll notice they'll start wearing more black, or they'll start having sullen clothes, or now they're watching tattoo things on YouTube, or they're following tattoo artists, and it's like you just can get submerged into this culture, and it's very contagious. And at that next shop, Megan actually like was trying to do an apprentice for a piercing to become a piercer, which I never have had any interest in whatsoever, but she was just like, I love it, seeing, I'm not going to get too descriptive because Matt hates hearing about shit like that. But yeah, she tried that for a little bit. It didn't work out. She actually got a tattoo for part of her apprenticeship, and it was like a piercing needle and what are those corks, and it kind of looks like a toilet plunger, so I covered it up. But yeah, after that, she just went back to not piercing and doing what she did, and I just kept moving up shops and finally had the opportunity. And it's funny because like the first time I got the green light to go and sit and watch Matt, I didn't have a license at the time, and Megan had a license and was driving like a old Buick Oldsmobile Bucket, and I just called her instantly and was like, babe, I'm allowed to go sit and watch Matt tattoo. Can you come get me and take me there? And she was like, yeah. And literally I stood over Matt like a fly on the wall for, I don't know, probably like 10-12 hours. Yeah. And Megan sat on the couch not 10 feet away from us, and didn't complain, wasn't bitching, was completely 100% on team. And I just remember being elated leaving there, because I think we went and got Wendy's. I remember some kind of Wendy's nuggets were in there that night or morning. And I was just ecstatic. And like she's like, yeah, it was cool. And then I did it again, and she's like, man, like that's awesome, but is there any way you can figure this out without me? Because this shit's fucking like watching mud dry.
But yeah, I've always appreciated that about her, because she sat there for hours in support. But instead of like even like a cool spouse or someone that's a sweetheart would do that for you. But what separates her, I think, from most is not only that she would do that for you and did that for you, but she's genuinely just as stoked as you are for you,
right,
in the moment, like recognizing this is special, this is happening. And I've always appreciated your joy for others in the moment versus being like, fuck, this blows, but I'm doing it for him,
Right.
Which is really cool. And that's why even at conventions, the last convention we did, she was there to set up, tear down, but we're setting up or tearing down, packing shit up, but she's doing it with joy. And that makes all the difference in the world. That's fucking rare breed shit, I think.
Oh yeah, and what's
for sure.
What's the old girl's name? Electra. Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Fuck yeah. Gave her the paper. She's the lady that you check in to like do the contest and stuff, and brought Megan over paper, and it's like, here, you're basically in control of all your shit, and you collect the money and stuff. you know, so like she's known around the community and different conventions we go to. People know who she is, and like, you know, Lefty and his wife, Megan and her are great friends. Megan and him are great friends. Actually, he was just like riding around on a motorcycle and posted that he was coming to Ohio, and I messaged him on his private number like, yo, where you going at to Ohio? You know, say what up, slap hands.
Right.
And my birthday came like a couple weeks later, and she reached out to him and got him to, like, you know, write me a note and send it.
Right.
And I was like, well, how in the fuck did you get him to fucking message you? He won't say shit to me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So when you were watching Matt tattoo, was that in hopes to get a job there eventually, or what was?
Man, I just at the time, like, you know, as small as my bubble was, besides like the big rock stars who were like, duh, of course, in the area, it was like Clemmer and Cotterman. And, you know, there was some other people sprinkled in there, but when you got to the top of the food chain, that's what it was. And I had to learn, and I was scared of both, you know, but Matt was the one that I came in contact with first, and was actually like genuine and cool and approachable, I guess you could say. And I thought that, like, I'm doing something wrong. There's got to be a shortcut to it. And I remember the piece he did, it was like Batman Begins, where the building blows up with the Batman logo in it, and he was doing it below the Heath Ledger Joker. And I thought, I'm going to figure out cheat codes now, and watched him, and like, there's no cheat codes. It's just fucking suffer through it.
Hard work
and suffer through it. No cutting corners. And I was kind of bummed at that, but I was like, well, I know what I got to do now. And, you know, a couple months after that, me and Matt linked our schedules, and he was going to kind of help me understand flesh tones, because I understood a little bit of how to pack color. I had to teach myself how to pack color. I pretty much, you know, did black and gray in prison, like some single needle shit. But when it come to color packing, I had trouble understanding mags. And flats, definitely not. I was filleting people. Rounds, I don't even think I knew that a round shader existed for a long period of time. But I got this portrait set from Eternal, and I remember I got it, and I tried to do a dog portrait, and I was like, well, I've got to use every single fucking color in here on this dog, and it just looked like shit, so I didn't understand it. But sat with Matt, we linked up our schedules, and he was like, if you know someone you know to do a portrait on, I'll come over and sit with you. And guess who I picked to do a portrait on? My wife. And she was down too, and we picked a portrait of Jim Morrison, and it took me 18 hours to fucking do it.
The first session?
Yes.
Yeah.
From beginning to end,
Megan.
we sat down. I was going to walk him through the whole thing, and we're finishing this fucker no matter what it takes.
Man, and it's funny because, like, I did it, and I was shocked. Like, there's no way I fucking did that. Had a little bit of a rough heel, but I mean, you know, 18 hours on you know, 6 by 6 inches. But she set like a fucking trooper. It was the first time I got experience with blue gel. That worked miracles, but like, she was just basically to the point where she was numb, and let me do it, and it healed great. And, you know, me being the artist I am, I wanted to go and retouch it up, and I don't know what happened, but since the very first session, I've just like cartoonified the shit out of it, I think. So they're
like, maybe you started smoothing it out too much and stuff, maybe.
Probably, yes. You know,
Sure. Just trying to get like your blends perfect and everything.
Yeah,
I've done that.
Started learning about, like, you know, how powerful contrast is. Like, detail is super dope, but what trumps detail for sure is contrast. And like, I just
every day
wanted the best of both worlds.
That and dynamic. That's when we're still learning the lessons of just because you can doesn't always mean you should.
Right.
You know.
Exactly.
Yeah, and to lose that dynamic, whether it's contrast or, man, these whites look really good here, so I'm gonna do it here, and you do it everywhere, and now shit's flat. You just lost your punch, you know.
Yeah, I've notoriously done that. Like, you start out good, and it's like, well, if this is good, it's gonna get better, and it just like slowly gets worse, you know. It's like as you keep adding cool shit, it takes away that dynamics, you know? Exactly.
And, you know, Timmy B had like a cool seminar on whites and like what's really white. And I think he, you know, had like some paper towels, and he's like, it looks white, but it's not really white. You know, real white comes from like maybe this formica on this table, because, you know, we'll see. Can't wait to do the white in the eyes. That's always my favorite part. And it's like, you have to even look and make sure that those areas in the pupils are true white, because they can have a tint of blue or whatever reflective light or background they're around. And you know, this was still in the period of like, fucking let's white it out. Got to put those big white marks on the lips and on the bridge of the nose, and just fucking white and more white.
And you actually find out later on, and it took me years to learn this, but the most powerful contrast, more than white, is negative. Yeah. Like actually leaving their skin. Not only is it not going to turn yellow, you know, it's actually brighter. When the tattoo's healed and settled, it will be brighter looking optically than the white. So it's a struggle for me as well. Yeah. I did a tattoo. Did you guys see that like just red face I did like maybe a week ago? Like there's like only a tiny bit of white in the lips. The rest is completely her skin, but it looks like white. And she sent me a healed picture, and I'm like, man, it looks so much better than trying to pack that white in there. It gets all yellow and dirty, you know?
Yeah. And did you have to exercise discipline on that one, or you knew better? I mean,
no, I totally had to exercise. Okay. I was like, it was all I wanted to do was pack white in there, but I kept on thinking, man, it does look white, you know? And she was really pale. Yeah. But I mean, even if they're not really pale, like that negative is just so nice and clean. And I think it's a hard lesson for somebody like myself that I want to do so much over the top. And it's like dialing it back is actually better in this case, you know? Yeah.
Strong.
Yeah. I think that's part of my journey right now.
So here's an interesting story then. Do you remember showing me your portfolio, Hip, and I said to you I would give you a job?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Wow.
That was because of Meghan's portrait.
Really?
That was the tattoo that told me that. I had no idea of the story behind it, but that's the tattoo. And I was like, well, fuck, I'd give you a job if you can do that.
Right.
So that's pretty cool.
It was the shoulder.
Yeah. Yeah, he's always had a joke on that Morrison portrait. He had a floating head, and I was like, bro, you need to brush off just a little of a collarbone, a slight shoulder, or something, just to ground it. You know, and he started to, and then, even though he did the whole tattoo, but at the end, or he was fried, I grabbed the machine and put that shoulder on. And so the ongoing joke has always been,
he's right. So I would not hire you, but I would have definitely hired Matt. Thanks for clarifying that, man. I almost fucked up.
I'm just over here trying to be humble,
it's
man.
Cool.
I'll just stay in my lane.
But you know, the first time you sat with me and watched, and then you realize, holy shit, there is no cutting corners. You got to sit here and plow through it all. And then when you had me come sit with you, and I walked you through that whole Morrison portrait, and you know, I just have like a long pointer, you know, whether we're helping, I'm pointing at the shape on his stencil, finding his shape on the piece, and just, you know, doing that shape, and then obviously blending. And I remember at the end of that you were almost completely discouraged, because that one even took longer than the one you sat in with me, and you for sure knew there was no corner cutting, because I remember there were little points of detail on your stencil, and you were honest in saying, if I wasn't sitting there, you would just brush that out, mag it, and go on, but not really hit and how I'd stop, make you slow down, and actually hit every detail that you actually stenciled. And I remember you were almost like, fuck.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's a hard thing, because I think a bit like you as well. Like, let's look for those shortcuts, or those, because a shortcut doesn't necessarily mean bad.
That's right.
But it doesn't really exist in tattooing. I mean, shortcuts could exist in tattooing, like my needle depth helps me achieve saturation, or this speed matches my nuances of my hand. But it really does come down to just straight up hard work. You know, and I think that's hard. It was definitely hard for me as I experimented and still continue to experiment with my work. So Matt's a good teacher, you know what I mean, for him to be able to tell you to take your time. Don't be afraid of the clock, and just do it right. You know,
and it's wild because he's grown so much since that day, to where now he's taught me, you know, so much. Well, first as a man, but then even now as an artist, because he's got better saturation than me now, He's got more discipline than me. Like the old you that was like looking for the shortcut. Now I feel like you're the dude that like stands for there are no shortcuts, and you just put your nose to the grindstone and fucking go,
Fuck yeah.
which is real cool.
Fuck yeah.
Real cool.
And
I feel like I've given advice to people, and you can probably relate to this, Matt. Like, we talk a lot about giving permission. Like I think Hip was ready to receive that permission because he was so hungry.
Yeah.
But have you ever told, say, an apprentice or even a younger artist than yourself, you've given them great advice and they don't really pick up on it, and then like you'll see them 2 years later and they're like, man, I'm doing this new thing, and you're like, motherfucker, that's what I told you to do 2 years ago. You know what I mean? But they just weren't like ready to hear it, right?
Yeah.
I think in life in general that happens. I know for me, Nikki's tried to get me to try some food forever, and I'll come home like, oh, Matt had me try this new taco place, and she's like, fuck you.
Story of my life, and that's happened so many times. I've even had to grow into like put my own ego, not wanting any of the credit and to let them think it was their idea all along and just celebrate it with them. Like, that's awesome. Good for you. And in my head, I'm thinking, you dumb fuck. No, just kidding. I've been trying to tell them that for years, but once they got it, once the light bulb came on, it was even more empowering however they received it, even, and for me not to, even though there was times where I wanted to like some credit, like, or at least some dab, like, finally, you remember I've been trying to tell you that forever. Like, I don't even bring that up. Part of me wants to, but if they don't remember and don't need to, it doesn't matter. We celebrate that they've found it today,
right. Yeah, for sure.
You just celebrate and don't say shit about it, and then a couple months come down, and then they're like forcefully trying you to do what you were trying to teach them that they learned from someone else, and then you just keep the ego in check, and you're like, okay, brother, I'll try that too.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
And Josh, you were saying like one of the favorite tattoos I've done is the cardinal that's on Meghan. Like, that's a fucking great story too, because I try to tattoo her one full day at Evergreen every year. One, because like she's my wife. I love Borat for that. And
the people that don't know that are like, what's wrong with that?
Why can't he pronounce that right? It's not that funny of a word, but she'll let me do anything, and it's usually some cool shit. And so I picked this out. I was stoked to do it, and then the day we were tattooing it, she was feeling like shit, was sick, and like really didn't want to go through it, but she was like, I'm totally doing it for you. And really, if I think back and I'm honest with the audience, I was being very self-centered and really didn't give a fuck that she was sick, because it's like, this is Evergreen. And
you were just so determined to do this.
Right. Almost to like, if I show signs of like compassion or empathy, that might give her an out, but we got to be determined.
Right.
We're a team right now. We got to do this. And she actually did, and she did great, and like bitched the whole time, because I know it had to suck balls because it's right on her shin. And
it's just it might as well be tribal. It's just, it's not black, but it's just solid saturation through and through.
And it's so weird because like it wasn't finished, and I went and did something, and she come back and said that she entered it, and I was so fucking mad, and wrapped up and came back. Or was it the next day, or was it the day of?
The day.
Oh yeah, she said she did it, and I was just pissed. And she's like, well, you need to wipe me off and get it ready. And I'm like, God, it's not even fucking done yet. Like, there's a lot of space in there that's not got any ink in it. It's her skin tone. And that's what I was pissed at. And, maybe touching a few more details of it. And I'd be damn if it didn't win first place. And I just don't understand that. I don't.
Well, I bet you it's part of what I just talked about. You had that open skin, like, oh, look, that was so smart of Hip to leave that.
I know. Man.
So now our listeners know the truth now.
Man, I would have tried putting Georgia Peach in there, but he just left it open. Man, that shit.
I was coming with the Georgia Peach. I was fucking coming. She was done. She entered it. I was pissed that she entered it, because it's like, well, you just want to try and humiliate me in front of my friends. Like, fucking goddamn Rimbers over here, and fucking There's killers here, and you just want to humiliate me with this.
She's like, no, baby, I'm about to go get you first place.
Yeah, I was.
That must have been so like vindicating for Meghan, right?
Yeah.
That must have been like after him just being, he was being a dick to you for a little bit too. So you were just like, oh, here's your trophy, motherfucker.
Well, I mean, obviously, like getting tattooed is not the most comfortable thing.
Right.
But then
Right.
being sick on top of it, it's
Yeah.
like makes
Yeah,
it 20 times
yeah.
worse.
Yeah.
But like he said, I even, again, am really good friends with one of his clients that always gets tattooed there. I actually reached out to her and was like, hey, you want to switch days? And she's like, I can't. And so then I knew, like, I have to do this. Plus I had wanted the piece forever. The red bird, the
Right.
cardinal means something to me. And so I just toughed it out. And I know that there were times that I probably looked like the exorcist coming off the table, because it was just, and I mean, we didn't hardly take any breaks. And I'll never forget, I really wish that it was on video, that I was up there entering the piece and they called his name, and he had just come in to because he had broke down and everything to watch.
lose.
And they called his name and he's like, me? And Nicole's like, yeah, you. They're calling your name.
Holding the trophy, waving, come on, boy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And
That's
and
fantastic.
it's won since then, dude. And I'm just
it's won so many
it has.
awards since then.
It's like a happy accident. And just for our viewers, dude, trophies are fucking cool, but they, it's a cherry on top, basically, is what it is.
Right.
But it's still, I ain't gonna lie, it does feel good. It does.
Yeah.
I'll be the corny sellout guy or whatever. But and I don't know. I'm glad we're revisiting this talk again, because there's something I'm supposed to learn there. We recently had an apprentice that came, graduated, went to work down where his family is, and the very first tattoo he ever did was a colored portrait. And I say that, which isn't the norm for an apprentice's first tattoo, but he's a master oil painter and a college professor in fine arts
And taught portraiture.
yeah. So, and he left. He let the tattoo breathe, and I just remember thinking, damn it, this
Yeah.
dude's starting out on solid, old school traditional fundamentals, and he's applying it in realism. So and he didn't even have to learn that, and I've had to hit my head over and over and over again. Maybe it'll sink in this time. We'll see this weekend.
We'll take a trophy for that bird. I know we will.
Well, I'm saying I have a portrait coming up, and there's some tones in it that match my client's skin, and let's see if I have enough discipline to fucking pull back and do less for more. More.
So one of the things I recommend is that, leave it, and then, you're staring at it and you're getting glare on it. Leave it there and take a picture with your phone and just step away.
Yeah.
Just step away. The first thing you should do on your phone is flip it around backwards. If the face looks funny or unfinished, you're going to see it in those first couple seconds when you flip it around, because your brain's going to have to re-register itself to look at that backwards picture. And if you really if you still feel like, man, I really need to put that Georgia peach in there or whatever that color is, if it's still calling you, listen to that. But I bet you'll be surprised at how beautiful that open skin will let it breathe, And honestly, it's better for tattoos as they migrate anyway, to have some space to go into.
Yeah, dude. And that's a good example. So this weekend, you guys are flying out early tomorrow morning, correct?
Yeah.
And where are you going?
Houston.
To a convention.
Yeah, Villain Arts Convention.
Okay,
Yep.
cool. And Megan, are you going along?
Yes.
Yeah, you are, girl.
Thursday is our 4-year wedding anniversary.
For real?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Tattooed right there.
Congratulations.
Which was her
That's
idea,
awesome.
and I'm grateful for it.
Yeah.
He'd forget if it wasn't there.
Well, we both forgot that this convention was actually during our anniversary.
Yeah.
You've got 2 girls, is that right, Megan?
Yes.
What would your thoughts be on one of them tattooing or both of them tattooing? After, what the industry's like, you've been entrenched in it pretty well. What would you think about that?
I would totally support it. I
Yeah.
would totally
Awesome.
support it. And actually, the oldest one has talked about it for a while, wanting to do it. But I've also had to prep her that if you're thinking that it's anything, just basically cut out anything that you're thinking. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to say it, because it's almost impossible to describe.
Right.
You know, like, you know, even St. Mark, you know, he's got a daughter that tattoos, and, you know, he was mentioning how she didn't even realize, you know, these famous tattoo artists were sleeping on her couch as she grew up, and she just didn't know any of this stuff, and she was just kind of like being a kid, which is awesome. But then as she got into it, she looks back and she's like, oh my gosh, I was surrounded by all of this stuff, you know, and didn't even know. So
yeah. And I actually, again, back to your wife, I look up to her so much because, and I just think she's so amazing, because the year before at Evergreen, she got a little bit of downtime, and I went over and was talking to her. And at that time, I had been thinking about like trying to be HIP's assistant. This is before I started my business and everything. And she was telling me like it takes a lot, you know, to do it. And you know, she just was going through some things and giving me some suggestions and stuff. And you know, speed ahead. I know that you know, maybe eventually once we're older and he maybe opens his own shop, that I'd be there with him, you know, once I'm retired from my business. But I know it's not for me.
yeah, it is a lot. What is your business, if you don't mind me asking?
I have a cleaning business.
A cleaning business? Okay.
And I've had it for about 4 years now, but it didn't really start to take off till this past year. I went into business with my best friend, and his name's Aaron. And actually, yesterday we celebrated a year in business, and it has been huge. Like it has been.
That's awesome. So this is like companies, or is it like private people can say, "Hey, can you clean my house?" Or what?
So we do residential. We have a couple businesses. We do, yeah. We have we're starting right now just like to build our clientele, and I would be completely lost if it wasn't for like watching these guys. You know what I mean? Like they have given, you know, it's not, they don't only give to the tattoo community. They've really helped me and him. You know, we take a lot from them. You know, when I was talking about the assistant thing, like HIP's assistant Mike, like he does so much. You know what I mean? Like he does so much for HIP and the shop, and I just had to give him a little shout out there, because he is like super loyal, and just I don't know if HIP will ever be able to find someone like Mike. You know what I mean?
Now, are we talking about the same Mike that's producing the show right now?
Yes.
Oh shit.
And so like I've learned things from him. You know, we share ideas and stuff with each other. So it's like I have taken a lot of like how they work as a team at the shop and me and Aaron have put it into our business. You know,
That's
how
awesome.
how we have our candid messages, how we respond to people, our pricing. You know, we just upped our pricing not too long ago, and we've gotten a couple people that were not very happy about that. But it's just like standing in your power, and again, you know what I mean, just having that support. You know, having that support system of people that believe in you. And I mean, on any given day, I still don't know what the fuck I'm doing. You know what I mean? I just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And I have a really great partner, you know what I mean, who is striving for the things that I want. And, you know, I can't wait to hire people. I can, but I can't, because I'm a control freak too.
Sure.
But the big thing about the hiring people for me is like, I don't ever want to treat someone the way that I was treated, you know what I mean, as an employee. And I want a team, like how Aisle 9 is a team, you know what I mean? And I want to give to my employees, and I want them to know that they're important and they're valuable. You know what I mean? That they're not just somebody that's going to come into work, and then if they was to die, that they would just be replaced. You know what I mean? So it's like I've taken in so much from these guys and put it into my own business. So
that's awesome. And for our listeners out there, you've heard us talk about Mike a couple of times. So this is a great example of what an awesome guy he is. You know, not only does he produce this show for us, there's so much going on behind the scenes. This is not easy to do, all the editing and everything involved. So let's just kind of, you know, if you're watching this on YouTube, everybody just take a moment to give Mike a comment and a little bit of a thank you. And also, I'll say it myself. Thank you so much, Mike. I know you guys feel the same way.
Yeah.
It takes kind of lightning in a bottle to make something special like this happen, and Mike's a big part of that.
Man,
Yes.
and he makes it look easy. He really does.
He does.
He learns it quick. Dude, when I hired him, he was like doing roof estimates or some shit, and I didn't even go to him directly to hire him. I was looking for an assistant, maybe a homie that needed a job, that would be interested in, you know, snapping a couple pics of me and taking care of my social media and email. Because, you know, being in recovery, people that put forth the effort, you know, you give me an inch, I'll give you a mile. And somebody that don't work with us anymore was like, you ever thought about Mike? And I was like, little Mike? And they're like, yeah, him. And I just was like, hey, dude, you be down to do this? And he was like, sure. So I went out and bought all the equipment, and he came over and, like, day 2 made a video, which at the time blew away every other videographer that was at the shop's quality. And it's just been since then, like, you give him a task and he just learns it, almost to the point to where I feel like it's making me dumber.
He needs a raise.
I'm just like relying on him too much.
Yeah, very determined like we are, and very resourceful, you know. And, you know, we make jokes about, you know, learning how to do shit by watching YouTube videos, but he taught himself how to be a videographer real quick.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And a damn good one, you know. Beautiful. How'd we get on the mic topic? No one gives a fuck. I'm just kidding.
I knew there had to be something coming to just close that. You know, it's like, oh, we all love Mike. Fuck him,
Little bitch.
Yeah, there's a reason why y'all don't see him or hear him. Okay,
Right.
Just kidding. No, Megan, what's most rewarding, if you can even narrow that down? Another thing I love about both of these folks right here, you know, Hip said it last night on the Tattoo Business Mastery call, that he keeps gratitude real close. Always keeping gratitude close. And I've seen you live that you keep gratitude close too. And you know, you got your guys' level of appreciation, even for the little things. Now, once, because you got high gratitude. Two, sometimes Hip would paint the picture that you guys lost a middle chunk of your life and was robbed from maybe what's normal experiences for the rest of us, and now are playing catch up to where there's little things that most people take for granted that you guys are literally cherishing. That's why even at the at your Vegas show, Josh, the World Championships, they drove out there just because they never got to see that part of the country. And how you guys make plans, almost restoration plans. Hey, we lost it that decade back there, so let's do it in the present, in the now, and thank God we can, you know. And so it's just a joy to be around you guys, because you're always in appreciation mode, always genuinely got joy for this present moment and who's here with us, where you've come from, where you're at, where you're going. And it's just inspiring, and it breeds thankfulness in all of us, even for the little things, you know, and your ability to make things special, even if it's something little, you know, all of it. I just really appreciate that about both of you. It just oozes out your pores. So, but back to my question, being his wife, being a part of the tattoo industry yourself, networking, making so many friends. You got friends across the country now too, but what would you say in these latter years of growing together as a couple, in your career as a businesswoman, as a tattoo artist? Could you narrow down some of the most rewarding moments that you've had in recent years?
The biggest one would be time.
Yeah.
Time with him. You know, being able to travel. You know, something that Hip does for me, and I've shared this with him before, but maybe he doesn't remember, is like, Hip is so positive. Like, you very rarely see Hip not being positive. And what that's done for me is it levels me out, right? Because I grew up around negativity. So it's like he can pull me out of that.
Yeah.
I may not be very receptive at first or nice in the beginning, but he's always able to like pull me out of it.
Yeah.
And he pushes me. You know, I shared this with him yesterday. It's like almost always I want my disease will have me living in fear, right? Fear to try different things, fear to climb a mountain, you know what I mean? Fear to go on a hike, you know what I'm saying? Like fear to ride a mountain bike, you know what I mean? All these different things, but he has a way of pushing me, but in a way that's like loving and because he believes in me, you know what I mean? So it's like,
you
there's
guys
so
push
many
one
things.
another.
Yeah,
You
there's
guys
so
do.
many things that I could say that are rewarding.
Yeah.
And one being too that like being able to watch him grow, being his wife, you know, him taking me on this journey with him. Yeah.
It's awesome.
Your turn.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Something else I love about you two is I've watched you guys, like if you're, I guess, on the outs or in an argument or not getting along or one of you is disappointed or mad at the other, right? How you guys handle it and react, because we all got, life happens, but your guys' reaction to one another's like always been so fucking solid. And, you know, anytime I've noticed it and observed it and even talked to you about it, like even if there's times where he was in a mood and it offended you and you wanted to snap back but you didn't, and I caught you in a room and you're almost coaching yourself like, I'm not gonna let this offend me, whatever. He needs a space right now. Like you're coaching yourself into a place of peace when other people would just be so reactive, you know. But I've seen you guys do it back and forth time to time, and any time I'd acknowledge you in it, you would accredit it a lot of times to the anonymous program you're in and the steps that you live by that helps you through that process, which is admirable, but still no one's doing your push-ups for you. You guys actually apply it, and I've seen you do it time and time, and it's been encouraging to me to not be so quick to get offended or upset by watching you guys practice staying in peace and in present and taking your own inventory. Like both of you are constantly living with a mirror in front of your face. You know, if someone else has bummed you out or pissed you off, before you go straight to blaming them, you put a mirror in front of your face. You guys are always doing that. And then you also live on such a high level of self-honesty that's like real inspiring too. What are you thinking, Hip?
And just you said that you see it in both of us, and I don't know if maybe she might be better at that than I am, because like there was this thing that I used to do back in the day, and I actually had to make an amends to her for it, but there was, and I'll just give a real life scenario the best I can, but like I would do things like you know, it'd be after a meeting and she'd be like sitting there talking to someone, and I'd come up and start doing the annoying husband shit, you know, pinching a boob, pinching a butt, like poke, what you doing, what you doing, what you saying, what you saying. And then she would get pissed off and visibly yell at me in front of people, and then I would get embarrassed now, so I'd turn around and like say some old hateful shit and walk off when I was the direct result of all that thing happening.
Yeah.
So it's just like when you're talking about that, when you're talking about that, I feel that she's definitely better.
Well, none of this is true. I'm just trying to make a good episode here.
Right, but I'm trying to ad-lib with you.
I'm just saying that.
But it's something funny that we do is like, you know, because we're always firing shots and picking at each other. And anybody that watches the video, you can see like the ornery looks that we give each other. But this is one thing that like, it's like a bittersweet thing that she does. So like the majority of people that I hang around with and joke with, I do just that. I joke with them and bust their balls. And like, man, there'll be times when, you know, I fucking say something like, you know, you don't clean good and your business really ain't shit. And she'll be like, well, your dick's small and you don't fuck like shit. And I wish I would have married fucking so-and-so. And I'm like, geez.
Oh, straight from the jugular. Like you rat ribbing her. She's like, yeah, I used to notice that shit too. Like, man, she don't play nearly as long as you do.
All right.
Like, man, that shit escalated real quick.
Right.
You know? But again, still, even when real offenses caused, your guys' ability and the amount of time where you bounce back and are back on the same team seems to be quicker than most people's. And I've seen it for at least 5 years now, and it's real cool because it didn't just happen that one time. I've seen it happen so many times that you guys bounce back and choose forgiveness quick. Choose love quick and are quick to look at your own point. Even though you're pissed at her, you go and look for your part in it and then usually see it. You know, and again, how you guys handle one another or this thing called life has always been real cool to watch.
And you know, there's a lot too after behind the scenes, because like we may clean up our act in front of the people we're around, but it may be a day or day two and one of us will come back and like make amends, you know, and apologize for it, and then we'll move forward. But like those like heady fucking fights, dude, that just go crazy. I mean, we've had our moments like that, but they're every blue moon. I think like the last one was after I drove back from guest spotting at your shop, Josh, after Evergreen. Like that was the last time there was really a big crazy argument, and they're just so far and few between. And a big part of it is the program, you know, because it's like if I'm what the fuck's that saying? If I'm not the problem, there is no solution. So if there's a problem, then it's me. It's always directed towards me, rather my choice, where I choose to go that day,
acceptance, what
I choose to wear, yeah, and then accept that, and then get into the solution and move forward. But yeah, it's a fun, interesting game that we play.
Well, and you play it well, because that shit, even if you can learn it in theory, that sounds good, but in the heat of the moment, well, most people, that shit goes out the window. But I see you guys seriously apply it into your life, you know, again, which is admirable. Back to you guys, but that I think is also connected to your self-honesty. Since you live with a mirror in front of your face, you're willing to take a look. Most people don't like to really take a look because they ain't gonna like what they see. But even if it stings, you guys still keep looking. And then you make the adjustments. And that's you being honest and self-aware, right? But Josh and our listeners, just to let you know kind of the level of like honesty they roll in, even thoughts about lying are little white lies. One time he was 20 minutes late to work and no one was there. He didn't have a client or nothing. There was just one other artist. And when he walked in, right before he did, he thought to himself, I'm just going to make up some shit like, yo, sorry I'm 20 minutes late, but I was in a traffic jam. And then he thought to himself, no, I'm living an honest life now. I'm not going to lie. I'm just going to own it. And he walks in, he's like, yo, sorry I'm 20 minutes late. And the other dude's just like, cool. Like no one's waiting on him or nothing. That could have been the end of it. But nope, Hip was thinking about it for a while, and about 45 minutes later, now more of us are around, so we get to witness this, and he goes back out to like totally get complete with this dude, and he's like, hey man, you know when I came into work, and it's like, yeah, sorry I'm 20 minutes late, he's like, yeah, and Hip's like, well, on my way in, I knew you'd be here, and I thought about lying to you about that, and I decided not to own it, but man, I just need to come clean with you and tell you that I thought about lying to you for a minute.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
wow, yeah, that's another level for sure.
It really is, but that inspired me and the rest of us. And it's like, man, where in my life am I like talking shit to myself, but no one knows, you know? And talk about rare scenarios. So Hip, if we even want to call them lies, because that's what he would define as a possible hypothetical lie, and it wasn't one. Anytime he's ever lied to me or not told me the whole truth, he always comes and tells me, you know, and he's like telling on himself or throwing himself under the bus to keep our relationship fucking clean, you know?
Remember when I fucking told you that one shit? I can't remember the exact scenario, but like there was something, and I ended up stealing money from the shop, and I had a discussion with Matt on like what to charge the dude, and what I was wanting to do was like take this much, and I ended up telling him a wrong number and even took more, and then told Matt, I was like, dude, I totally fucking did exactly what I apologized for previously of thinking about doing, and went ahead and did it anyway. But I ended up putting the money back, so like we're all square. I just had to tell you, like I just stole from you, dude. My
First
bad.
he came to confess to me that he's thinking about like making his paperwork wrong and give himself a bigger cut, whatever. And he's like, and I realized, man, that ain't worth like our future, blah blah. So, dude, I'm not gonna do that. I feel bad. And then he went in and did it.
Damn.
And, you know, that could have been, you know, just inspired by Meghan, because I remember she used to work. She was a nurse's assistant, like bathing old people and shit. And like, you know, being a tattoo artist, I wouldn't wake up till like 11 or noon back in the day, and she'd already be gone for work, and like, you know, new pair of scrubs gone. She's out. And then one day I slept in late, and she come in and she's all like snuggled up to me. She's like, hey, and I'm like, what? She's like, I gotta tell you something.
No, I called you on the phone.
Oh, did you?
I called you on the
Because she
phone.
knew I was gonna knock her out. No, she called me and she's like, yeah, well, you tell it.
I had got up like I was going to work, and
For like a week.
no, it wasn't a week.
Oh.
It was only a day.
Sorry, I'm lying. I'm trying to look cool.
He still struggles with lying. And I actually called a friend of mine first, and I had been struggling with my job really hard, and I didn't go to work that day, but I got up, and with all intentions of not going to work, I got up and got dressed, so he thought I was going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And I went and sat at the cemetery, actually, where my cousin's buried. And then I ended up, she was like, you need to, you know, you got to call him and tell him that you're not at work, that you lied. And so I called him and was like, hey, I got to tell you something. And he's like, what? And I'm like, I got up and got dressed to go to work, and I'm not at work.
Are you sure that there's not more days? Because it sounded a lot cooler the way I was going to tell it. And
Just one day.
yeah.
That's some like shit I've seen in like TV shows. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, someone loses their job and they don't want to tell their family, so they just get up and just
Go to work.
pretend to go to work every day.
Oh,
As soon as I leave, she comes back.
yeah.
Right.
That's awesome.
I wanted to add one thing real quick when Matt was talking about,
Yeah.
you know, how we communicate and all that stuff. And I'm all about like trying different things. And there's a friend of mine, her and her husband started this thing
I was just going to brag on you for it.
where they journal each other every day. And when I seen that and she shared it with me, basically like it leaves the door open to just like be able to talk about anything really, you know, whether that be, you know, feelings or whatever. And actually I just downloaded, there's an app too that you can do the same thing. But so we've been doing that for probably about, I don't know, 2 or 3 months.
30, 40 years now?
No, 2 or 3 months. And it's been really good. And it's kind of exciting, like to write to him and then him write back to me, and then us to have that book, you know what I mean, where we've wrote each other. And we don't do it every single day because we're not perfect, but we try to do that.
And what's an example of what you journal about? Because when you say journal about something versus like writing a letter to someone,
well,
Give like a real excerpt.
okay, so for instance, I wrote to him the couple days leading up to us going on me and my business partner and my daughters going on our vacation. You know, we just took a vacation, and it was the first vacation that I've paid for actually myself, right? And he couldn't come. I was going to pay for him to come because he's always fitting the bill.
yeah,
But he couldn't come. And part of me thinks sometimes he did that on purpose. That's another story. But so I was writing him a couple of days leading up to that, basically sharing with him my fear of leaving him at home, right? Because, I mean, he he doesn't do shit. So I was like, he's going to be lost without me. He doesn't know how to fucking use the washing machine. He doesn't know how to take care of the dog. I mean, he was already trying to put the dog off on somebody else. And I'm like, you can keep your fucking dog. You know what I mean?
Hang on real quick. You can continue
It's
after
my
this.
turn to talk.
But I can totally take care of the dog. It's just that I tattoo and I want to. I
Excuses.
go and do stuff and hang out with people, so it's like the last thing I want to do is be attached to like.
Who's got time for their own dog?
I know.
Exactly. So basically, I was writing him, basically just sharing my fears and worries about leaving, and but also sharing with him that I was excited that I was able to take my kids on this trip, and you know, just we just write little notes to each other like,
That's awesome.
I'm proud of you, I'm excited for you. You know what I mean? Whether it be he has a tattoo that day and he's shared with me the night before, I can be like, I hope your piece goes well today. You know, have a great day.
Nice.
You
So
know,
it is a morning thing. Do you both write them
Yes.
and read them in the morning?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
You know what? So a couple of friends of mine have done that reminds me of this, and I've thought about doing it with Nikki. You know, on Facebook, how you have like the Facebook stories,
Yeah.
you know, and there's like little short stories. They'll just throughout the day, like let's say Hip's doing a tattoo, you know, and he films himself maybe saying, hey, I just finished the stencil, and he's like printing it out. Basically, he just films little clips, right? And then only makes the stories available to Megan so she can actually, you know, he just keeps these little, it's like a little journal that's through video.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
I like it.
So like if I'm at a tattoo convention and Nikki stays home, I was like, that could be kind of cool, like strolling through the airport, like, oh, look at this funny guy that's sitting next to me that's fucking whistling out of his nose, and like I can send her all these little anecdotal experiences.
Love it.
So it's kind of similar, but through video.
Can you save those?
Kinda-
Can you save all those stories? Because I know stories
think you
go
can.
away, but I don't know. Mike, can we
I'm not
save
positive, but I
stories,
think
or-
you can. At minimal, you could screen record it and save it
Okay.
to your camera roll.
Right on.
But I think that'd be kind of fun. You know what I mean? Just like, because you guys are a lot like me and Nikki used to, where we're like, you know, a lot of people are like, you know, you get happy when they go away for a while. Like after 20 years with her, like I don't really want to be away from her, to be honest with you still. In fact, I'll get mushy here, but I love her now than I ever have. You know what I mean? So
That's how I am.
to some of our listeners, it might sound like whatever, but like, you know, I can see it in you guys as well.
Yeah.
You know, we got extremely lucky, Hip. Extremely fucking lucky.
Yeah.
You know, something about, I remember the first time I ever met Brian Brenner, he had just finished this piece, and actually we were there watching him do the piece, and he looked at us both and was like, I'll be right back, I had to go call my wife. And when he came back, he was like, I was like, oh, were you calling your wife to I don't remember how we got on the subject, but he was like, I call my wife every time I finish a tattoo. And I was like, that is so fucking cool that he calls her every time and tells her about the piece and the experience.
I'm just kidding.
It's a real man.
No, I love that. These are fun. I'm gonna borrow the journaling idea and see if
fun.
my wife would be
It was actually kind of uncomfortable at first, and still kind of is. You know what I mean? Like if you're wanting to like maybe share something.
Yeah.
Like if I'm wanting to share something with him that I don't feel like I could say to his face, right?
Yeah.
Because I've known from the beginning of our relationship, the best, well, communication is huge. You have to have communication. But for me, when I was able to write him a letter and not be there when he read it and he's able to process it, it seems like it always went smoother.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah.
Because then it allows the time to process it.
Yeah.
Because anyone that knows Hip knows that he has the answers for everything.
Yeah.
It helps to I don't know, whenever I'm introduced into like a confrontation or what I perceive to be a confrontational, I'll get fearful, and like my mind will start going fast, and I need to say what I need to say before I forget it. One, or if the individual says something back to rebuttal or retaliate, it instantly drives up my furiation level. So then the emotions take control, and I might have a little bit more anger twang to my voice, and body language can become more negative. And what writing does for me is it allows me to like put it out how it is and say my piece. And then, like Megan was saying, like to read it when I'm not around, and let them have their process, or let her have her process with it. It helps, you know. I mean, I don't know how well that does with like on the grounds of communication, because you know I that's one of the things that I just admire about people that are assertive is they're assertive, where I'm more passive aggressive, and will always try to be like, I don't know, sly and manipulative first off, but I always had to catch myself, and that in itself's a process, or it's a head fuck. So yeah, it just seems more to the point. It can be, because yeah, sometimes there's issues about, you know, when we talk about the girls, I'm always feeling like the oddball out, like I'm the only guy in the house, and like I'm not part of the cool kids club, and that instantly sends me into like, fuck it, I don't give a fuck anyways. I was just doing it because they're your kids, you know, that type of mentality. And although that isn't true, like that's what I run to. And being able to journal, I can like get my feelings out about something, you know, and be honest and be like, well, this is what I make that mean, even though I know it doesn't mean that, but tell my fucking feelings that it doesn't mean that, you know. So ultimately, like it's solution based, and it's going to the solution. It's just not as fast as I would like it to be.
So not only do you journal one another, you each individually journal about your own life, right? And that's what you're just saying. Sometimes you'll write shit out to help process it and release it, or
and to, like, you know, piggyback off what Megan was saying too. Like if I need to say something to her, I can say it in there, and then she can read it when I'm not there. But also, I self journal too. So I'll journal my entry for the day, and then she'll always leave her journal in my office beside probably a new bouquet of flowers or a new coffee cup, because here lately I've been being gifted tons and tons of coffee cups, and then I'll put in art entry for the day, and it's solution based. What?
That's awesome. What's he laughing at over there?
Just watching him talk.
What?
See,
What
I even
doing?
like how she
You're
looks
cute.
at you. Yeah. Man, I mean, dude, you've been such a prick, such a dick at times, and she still loves you, man.
Right.
I'm just kidding. I like the journaling thing. I'm gonna try it for sure.
Yeah, I've seen Hip post a lot of pictures of that, and as you guys know, I take a lot of notes, but not really journaling, and I think I could get in with that too, you know.
Yeah. Good shit.
Yeah, just kind of process some stuff. So
Self-care.
Well, I definitely appreciate you coming on and being vulnerable with us, Megan. I know that's not easy to do.
Yeah.
Hip's always kind of been really open book with all of us, you know, and I didn't want to just ask you your story, and just like, I hope you didn't feel like I pressured you to
No, not at all.
say anything you didn't, you know.
You guys made me feel
Awesome.
really comfortable.
For
I was
all of-
really nervous in the beginning.
Well, yeah, I get it. For all of our listeners, but especially the wives of tattoo artists, wherever they're at, whether some of them are struggling right now, some of them are in the beginning relationship where they feel like they're definitely not first, whatever, to all the ladies out there that are married to a determined tattoo artist that may be struggling or discouraged, what would you want to leave them with? Any hope or strength in any area?
Well, I would say hold on. It gets better. And also make sure that you're building relationships with other wives. That's been the hugest thing for me, like I said.
That's what I'm talking about.
Building relationships with other wives, because, you know, if it wasn't for Lefty's wife, your wife, Aaron, you know what I mean? They all give me experience, strength, and hope.
Yeah.
And also, I can be supportive to him, but that doesn't mean stop working on myself
Come
and
on.
my hopes and my
Come
dreams and
on.
my goals.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
It's not an either or. Like,
No.
this is a season for Hip to grow. I just need to support him, and then one day it'll be your turn. But
Right.
as you support your man, you grow in who God made you to be, right? Whatever you're
Yep.
feeling led to do and to be, and he can support you too, right?
Yep.
That's what I see you all doing.
Yep,
Yeah.
that would be it.
That's a good word to the
Awesome.
ladies. We love you. I love you, Megan.
Love
Thanks
you.
for coming on, girl.
Virtual high five.
Yeah.
And we'll see you in August because we're driving to Oregon
Yes.
with Hip's mom and the kids.
We'll actually see him.
I'll actually see you in
Oh,
about
you'll see
2
us
weeks.
before that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah, St. Marcus buying us all steak.
Yeah.
He said we each get a +1. So
Okay.
I know.
Perfect. Perfect. Megan, we love
You
you.
want to start taking bets on how lady's going to be?
Man.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you so much, Mentor, for doing my podcast.
Did you
with
guys
me.
journal to each other about this?
I did.
Yeah.
Come on. All right.
I told him
cool.
this morning that I was super nervous
Yeah.
to come on here, and then he sent me the podcast with Nicole on it, and I watched it,
Yeah.
and it helped me so much. Like I said, I sent her a message right away and was like,
Mhm.
"Thank
Awesome.
you
Well,
for setting the tone."
I'm sure she appreciated that.
Yeah.
So thank you.
And like
Yeah.
I told Nicole, and you know this about Nicole, she's one of those people that has the gift to make you feel comfortable in your skin.
Yes.
And you have that same gift.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Awesome. We love you.
You're welcome.
Thanks all our viewers for watching and all our listeners for tuning in every single week. This has been another episode of the Tattoo Guardians podcast show. We're having fun. We'll see you next week.